Kids are just days away from throwing the books and papers into the air, running out of the school building as that final bell rings.
Do they do that?
I'm not sure.
Still, that's not really real life. Maybe that's more in the movies.
Okay.
But here's what is real life. Parents rejoicing that maybe they get a break from homework help for a few months. On the flip side, though, there's also the worry that their child won't catch up.
TCL reporter Kelly Hansen introduces us to a mom who no longer worries about that summer slump thanks to a program that changed her son's life.
Aiden Chamberlain is your typical almost teenage boy. Video games, sports, they're all at the top of his list. But school, especially reading and writing?
Yeah, I want to just take a break and not do it.
He's 12 now, but 2 years ago when Aiden was in 4th grade, his parents knew something had to change.
Tears, frustration, pencils being thrown across this kitchen table, and it was one of those moments where we're like, what are we gonna do?
Aiden's struggles in school started early.
I think we discovered in kindergarten, after 3 years of preschool, he was struggling. He was kind of getting pulled out of class to do his sounds.
But after years of endless battles at home over homework,
We were at our wits' end. We just didn't know what else to do.
so Aiden's mom turned to LearningRx.
It showed Aiden that he was so much more capable than he thought he was, and he showed us he was more capable than we at times thought he was.
Aiden trained his brain at LearningRx for 10 months. He had tried tutoring before, which his mom describes as a band-aid. But here, he sharpened skills like short and long-term memory, logic and reasoning, and visual and auditory processing.
They gave him the tools and the skills needed to be able to figure out how to learn these things, how to study.
Those tools were in the form of brain games. Now, in 6th grade, Aiden rarely brings home schoolwork.
It's much easier doing homework, and I don't have much to do at home anymore.
So it's just trying to get you to break everything down.
On this day, it was just review.
There's not a lot of homework that's coming home now.
There's not a lot of homework coming home, and when it does come home, he's been able to get it done primarily himself.
Now he can focus. He has more time to be just a kid, and his mom and dad can take a big sigh of relief.
I look at LearningRx and the things that they had him doing during the training session that just blew us away, going, how is he doing this? How is he able to pull out these numbers? It's incredible. It's fun to see his progression and see how far he's come.
Love seeing those smiles.
Yes,
so
we do.
LearningRx Executive Director Rich Frieder is back with us. And this is a great time to be reminded, because I think the school year, you're sort of reflecting and looking back, and you have 3 signs that it might be time to intervene and get some help. So the motivation is the number one thing. So what's kind of the missing piece here?
Yeah, so typically, you know, if these cognitive skills are weak, like memory, processing, those kinds of skills, it means the school is really hard. And kids who have lower skills, what it means is mentally they have to work so much harder than their peers.
Yeah.
Right? So that it's all they can do to get through the school day, and then they get home, and then they have to get the homework done, right? And
So you might be thinking, my child isn't motivated, and what they really are is just exhausted.
Yeah, motivation issues are almost always a symptom of something else, and
Yeah.
the symptom something else is almost always cognitive weaknesses, which is what we work on.
Yeah.
I would imagine it gets really tricky with reading because that's a tough thing for parents to really assess, especially if they're kind of sort of reading. So from your perspective, what do you look for?
Well, we typically see that if there's consistent struggles with reading, especially if 3rd grade or beyond kids aren't caught up in reading, almost always that's a sign that there's cognitive weaknesses. And some of those would be things like long-term memory being low, where they can't retain the codes, or auditory processing, where phonetically they can't pick it up. And you know, if kids aren't caught up in reading by the end of 3rd grade, only 25% do.
That's
and
shocking.
The reason is that the typical programs aren't getting to the root cause.
And reading, I mean, being a good reader is
everything.
like the key to success, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then you say consistent struggles. So we're not talking about like a couple days, a week even. I mean, how much time goes by before you go, okay, I got to do something?
Well, this is a time of year that's good to reflect on, like you said, because we work with a lot of families where they've done tutoring and summer school year after year after year. And what's happening is those aren't bad, but what's happening is you're treating the symptom, right? And you're not getting to the root cause. And that's why you have these consistent issues. It's like, well, maybe this next school year is going to be better. It's like, well, it won't likely, because the same underlying causes are there in the fall if you just do tutoring over the summer.
So how can you help to unpack that a little bit? Because we hear LearningRx, and I bet you a lot of people hear about LearningRx and they think, well, isn't that just tutoring. In what way is LearningRx different?
Right, so tutoring, what you're typically doing is you're bringing in academic content and you're just going over it again. It's almost like an extension of school.
Sure.
Cognitive training is actually strengthening the underlying skills like memory and processing and attention.
So you do not bring your schoolwork or the homework that you're struggling with in?
No, you're doing intense mental exercises that strengthen those skills, because the reason is those skill weaknesses are why you're struggling. So that's why you can't read well, or that's why math is so hard, or kids aren't getting the homework turned in. And if you just bring homework and work on it, it's like, yeah, that helps because there's extra help, but at some point you have to get to the root cause. So this summer is a great time to get at that, because don't do another summer of tutoring in summer school, especially if you've already done it several times.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get a different outcome.
So summer is also, I mean, then you can just focus on that brain training, and a lot of families have maybe a little bit of extra time in the summer to be able to commit to a program like this. How long do you think before kids really see a difference when they're coming to your sessions?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit of time, but if we can get kids started near the start of summer, we can typically see improvements by the end of summer before they go back in the fall.
Great.
So, and it just depends on where their starting point is.
Yeah.
But, you know, one of the things we typically see change early on is confidence. Kids are just more confident because they're achieving now.
So what's that like? Because as we were watching that story, I just thought how precious that you are instilling, giving them the gift of confidence that you can do it. What is that like from your perspective to be able to do that?
Oh, it's super, well, it was super satisfying.
Yeah.
And we have so many stories like Aiden where kids who come in and they're just so frustrated because school's hard, right?
Yes.
And then it affects their esteem. They don't feel like they're smart. They're really smart. Aiden is a really smart kid. We just needed to strengthen some skills for him so that would sort of come out and he could reach his potential and then feel confident about his ability.
Well, keep bringing us stories like Aiden's. We love those. That's fantastic. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Rich. LearningRx is offering TCL viewers a special deal. Call and mention Twin Cities Live to get an initial assessment for $75 that is regularly priced at $199. We've also posted more information about the program on our website, twincitieslive.com.
Big thanks to LearningRx for sponsoring the show. All right, let's get a